Josh and Caleb.
Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel for another review, this one being of Pinocchio, another live-action Disney remake. They're either great or bad. I feel like they've gone a little off the deep end as far as live-action remakes are concerned. There's a whole bunch coming our way, which we learned about D23. But the classic Pinocchio, some people would say the greatest animated film of all time. Not my personal favorite. That would be 101 Dalmatians, which we got a great live-action prequel, Cruella. That's the way you do live-action versions of your animated classics, Disney. Or Jungle Book. I really like Jungle Book. Then the rest are kind of okay to bad. Like Alice in Wonderland's okay. Lion King's just shot for shot. Pinocchio's pretty much shot for shot, which with some additions, some subtractions. We'll get into that. But the original, I don't watch a whole lot, if I'm being honest. Is not one, watch a whole lot. I don't watch every year or anything like that. But this is my Japanese version that I got in a box set. But it is one of the scarier movies from my childhood. I do remember that. Stromboli was pretty creepy and scary, and then of course Pleasure Island. But yeah, fond memories of Pinocchio, one of the better animated films. So when I heard they were doing a live-action remake with Robert Zemeckis, first I was like, okay, he's a director I enjoy. And then I watched The Witches, one of the worst remakes ever made. And just some of the choices he made in this movie is like, why would you do that, Robert? It like makes no sense. And we'll get into that. The movie starts and Gepetto's reason for making Pinocchio is a little bit different than the animated movie. In this one, he's lost his son and wife, so he decides to make a puppet, I guess because he's lonely or whatever. So he makes it, and we'll just talk about the look of Pinocchio. Zemeckis chose to keep him like pretty much how he looked in the animated film, which, okay, but in a live-action setting, you gotta choose, like, Honest John looks realistic, and then you have Pinocchio, who looks like an anime character, but just plastic. He's not animated. He's not realistic. He's somewhere in the uncanny valley in the middle. And that kind of distracts, not the whole movie, because you learn to accept it, but it does distract in certain areas of the film. Okay, one of the highlights for me was the Blue Fairy. I thought she was great. Her voice is amazing when she sings Wish Upon a Star. Great scene, but she is only in that one scene. That's it. Just the one scene. Like, you had a great actress who knocked out of the park, and they changed the ending, which is why she doesn't come back. But she's just in that one scene. Blue Fairy is probably, it's one of the highlights of the remake. I will say some positives. And then you get, like, the cuckoo clocks, right? Okay. In the animated film, they're like, of the village and stuff, certain fairy tale tropes in cuckoo clock form. In this one, Robert's like, let's do a fourth wall break here and do a Roger Rabbit clock and a Donald clock and a bunch of Disney characters, Snow White, and it's a little distracting to me because I'm like, okay, but they wouldn't know what Roger Rabbit was in a fairy tale. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And Jiminy Cricket, oh, does so many pop cultural references. And at the beginning, he's talking to himself as a narrator and as a character in the film. That did not make any sense. So there's a lot of weird choices made in this movie. I'm not sure if they were all made by Zemeckis or if Disney stepped in and was like, hey Bob, do this, or take this out, or change this. I'm not sure who was the final say on those choices, because Jiminy Cricket did areas he works, but the talking to himself as a narrator and just some pop culture, like the Chris Pine joke, did not work. Did not work at all. And they shoot from his perspective a lot. But then when Gepetto walks by, he's supposed to be like way up on a shelf. But the way it looks like he's like 2 feet away. So that part does not work. But let's continue into the film. So Figaro and the fish are CG, you can tell. Some scenes they work and they look good. Some scenes they don't. But they're not the most distracting CG in the movie. I'll just say that. They changed a bunch of stuff. Give a Little Whistle is not in the remake, which is a great song from the original animated movie. That is not in here. And Tom Hanks as Gepetto, I thought, wow, that's brilliant casting, but he really phoned it in, or either Robert told him, hey, act just like the original Gepetto, but like overact, or he just overacted himself. Cause when he's wish upon a star and he like taps his fingers and he doesn't know what to say, and he like walks past Pinocchio and doesn't see him moving. He like looks, I don't know, a lot of weird choices. And I don't know if it was Tom himself making that choice or Zemeckis as the director. I don't know that. I'm just going off what I saw. And the stuff with Honest John, I thought kind of worked, even though he looks a little weird because they were going for a realistic fox. But that scene kind of worked for me. I don't know why, but it did. Not the worst part of the film, but they are cut, Honest John and Gideon, their scenes drastically cut. Like, they were in it quite a bit in the animated film. There's a lot of new stuff that they added which did not work, and they take out stuff from the animated film, like the Blue Fairy scenes are cut, Honest John and Gideon scenes were cut, which they're three of the best characters from the animated film. Anyway, I thought Honest John and Gideon worked well in the remake. That's one of the few instances that worked for me. Okay, then you go to Stromboli. In the animated film, he is very menacing. In the remake, he is not. Like, you're not scared for Pinocchio at all. Like, there's no tension there. Like, in the animated film, you're kind of scared because he's menacing and terrifying. And anyway, in the live action movie, he's not like scary at all. He's not. And they add a new character, which I actually did like her. She was great. Her and her puppet, I forget their names. They were great. I'll just show a picture. They were great. And you think, wow, they'll be a nice thread throughout the rest of the movie. And you don't see them at all until the very end of the movie. And that's a shame, because they were a great addition. The one good addition that worked is barely in the movie. And that's a common theme for this movie. The stuff they took away, is missed, and the stuff they added does not work, with the exception of this character, and they barely use her. So that's one of the new additions that worked. Okay, then it goes to Pleasure Island, and Luke Evans is the coachman, which, in the animated, it's whatever. He's not scary or, he's just there. And Luke, which this is his second live-action remake. He was also Gaston in the Beauty and the Beast remake. So Pinocchio says, I'm not sure if I want to go. And Luke Evans stops the coach, almost crushes Jiminy Cricket, and does this whole musical number about peer pressure. Oh man, it's one of the new songs, and boy, does it not land. And Luke Evans, he can sing, but he's so off key, and it just doesn't work, and the kids are making like really creepy faces, and that whole sequence does not work. And then he does like a whip thing, swings from the tree, lands on the donkeys, and his feet they're like floating. They're not on the donkey, they're like floating. In that forest scene, it looks like something you would Google, like generic forest background, and they just put that in the background as CG. That is awful forest CGI. Some of the background shots are really bad in this movie. They probably ran out of money, and they're like, just here, take this. And you have to match like the actor with the CGI element, but it's like they had him, and then they had the CG, and he's just doing this. Like, it doesn't, they don't connect. And especially when Gepetto is holding Pinocchio, there's like a gap between his hands and Pinocchio. Just some of that does not work at all. So they get to Pleasure Island after the great musical number. And Pleasure Island, in the animated film, there's this tension that grows because all of them are slowly turning into donkeys. And in this one, they ride this boat, which that whole sequence is, it's like he tried to do something like from Polar Express and just add it into here. It felt really weird. It was like that sequence in Tomorrowland, but he's like, let's do that here with Pleasure Island. And I guess he was trying to show like everything throughout Pleasure Island in like one continuous shot, which, okay, I get that. And then the coachman keeps popping up and giving root beer, which, yes, in the live action, it's not regular beer, it's root beer. Because, root beer is bad, kids. No cigars, which I get because Disney wants to stay away from smoking, because they specifically made Steven Spielberg take it out of West Side Story. So I get the smoking, but like kids now are going to say, "What? I can't drink root beer, or I'll turn into a donkey." Anyway, and with Ludwig, is that his name, right? The kid does a decent job, but how in the animated film it's like terrifying because he's slowly transforming into a donkey, and Pinocchio. You see his reaction, and it's terrifying. In this one, it happens like really quick. Like everything's quiet, and you don't see really anybody else change. They're just all gone. And then you see Ludwig's transformation really fast, and then they do the shadow shot from the animated film, and it's just not scary like it was in the animated. And that was a choice, but that's not one of the worst scenes, actually. So, but Pleasure Island overall did not work in this one, and the shadow monsters, which, yes, are in very briefly in the animated film, but they just look really bad. And see, Robert Zemeckis has done 3 movies back to back with just awful CGI. Maybe it's not his fault, maybe it's the companies they're getting, but I don't know why he thought to include monsters in the live action film. That was a weird choice. And then Luke Evans is riding the smoke monster to chase Pinocchio, and that shot just does not work at all. Oh, a lot of this movie does not work. So you got that, him floating on a smoke monster, whatever. So then Pinocchio escapes, and then he goes back to the clock shop while Gepetto's out looking for him. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I think in the animated film he's already in the ocean, and that's when Monstro gets him. Eventually, Gepetto goes after him, and they're both swallowed by Monstro, which inside of Monstro is one area that really works for me. Is a cool design, all the ships in there. That is one addition that I really enjoyed. Good job, because But the outside, you have like tentacles, and he's like a bunch of sea creatures all meshed into one instead of like a scary whale. He's like a bunch of sea creatures. So after all that, Gepetto and Pinocchio have this conversation when Gepetto is brought back to life from a tear, and he's like, "You can do stuff that real boys can't." And Pinocchio's like, "Oh." And you're thinking, wait, that's it? And he never turns into a real boy. They just walk off, and that's it. Gepetto tells him something like, "You are who you are, and that's good enough for me. We're good." And then they just walk off holding hands. And that's how the movie ends. Yep. You're going this direction the entire movie, and then he's like, "Oh, I want to be a puppet now. So, is that cool?" Yeah. It is what it is. He wanted it that way. Be who you are. Be happy with who you are, I guess, is the message from the live action movie. So, overall, not great. Probably should not have been made. But they did make it, and we're going to get a whole bunch more. If you guys like them, if you're ready for them, we are getting a whole lot more. Alright, that is going to do it. I'm Josh. More videos coming as always. Until then, if I don't see you out thrifting or at Walt Disney World, I will see you at the movies. Bye. Give a little thumbs up. Alright, bye. Subscribe. Bye.